Welcome back to the Naked and Famous podcast, lads. I'm Dano.
I'm Rob Vieira.
Hey guys, I'm Jimmy B.
Today we're joined by Father Brendan Fitzgerald, and it's a blessing to have him here with us today. Anybody who knows him knows he's from the parish of St. Barnabas and down in the Woodlawn, Yonkers area between the Bronx and... Where is it exactly, Father?
So it's...
You're on Martha, right?
Yeah, we're right on the border. Half of my church and half of the rectory where I live, half is in the Bronx and half is in Yonkers.
Nice one.
You know, so it's right on the border
you
there.
get
So if you're
people
coming from the Bronx, you go for 241st and Martha. Coming from Yonkers at McLean.
Nice one.
Yeah.
How long have you been down there now?
I've been there as pastor. I'm in my 7th year as pastor.
Nice.
And I had been there as an associate back in 2006.
Brilliant.
So it's honestly, it's a very special place to me.
And where are you from originally, Father? I'm so
So,
sorry, because I always thought you were from Yonkers.
No, born in Rockaway.
Right.
Mum and dad both from Ireland. And then when
Right.
I was a kid, went back to go to school in Ireland.
Nice.
Back to Killarney.
Oh, Killarney.
So
Explains the accent.
Yeah, the places I've lived in Ireland have been Killarney, Limerick and Dublin.
Oh,
What
nice.
part of Dublin? were you?
Donnycarney.
Not
yeah.
far from me.
Yeah.
Nice one.
You know a big church there in Donnycarney?
Yeah, it's big.
That was
It's a nice one.
a few minutes from there.
Nice one.
But Killarney for the most part.
Before the podcast started, we were just talking about water and how you were so aware of what you consumed. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
you know what? Actually, let me interject with a quick story. I was walking around Woodlawn a couple of years ago, and I was passing by, and I walked by you, and I didn't know you at the time, and I seen this unit with a priest. What's the official
Like the
term?
collar,
Yeah.
probably the black one, just a blue one.
Not
Yeah,
the blue one, it was a
yeah,
black one.
black
And
one.
I thought to myself, this man has to be going to a fancy dress. There's no way this man is a priest. And then I sat down in Dee's Deli and I started talking to one of the guys, and they mentioned Father Fitzgerald and how in shape he was. And I'm like, clicked. I'm like, no way, that guy was
That's
actually...
the guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the guy. And then your profile picture on Facebook for a while, I was laughing my head off at that.
Oh, I for a while, I had my profile picture was sitting on my weight bench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I seen it. I was like, this is
Yeah,
hilarious.
that's kind of like my happy zone.
Yeah, happy zone.
Yeah,
I like
and
that.
and it's honestly, a lot of my prayer is said in that
between
environment.
sets?
Yeah?
Yeah,
Nice.
it is. You know, it's sometimes we got so much on our mind, you can't jump straight into meditation and prayer.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it kind of works best after I've got a lot of my physical energy out. You know,
Yeah.
I get into like a energetic but a calm state.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I feel that way after I do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
After I train jiu-jitsu, and especially if I have a hard time, like I'm after getting my ass kicked, I get into a very settled state where the world seems I'm understanding with the world of where I'm at, and I'm not annoyed at anything, or I'm not frustrated about anything. I'm kind of just sitting with it, and I can see how that's sometimes one of the best times to speak to yourself or to God.
So I just started the jiu-jitsu a little over a year ago.
Nice one.
And definitely, I think it's the humility.
Yeah.
And you get a sense of just, you know what I like about it is you're really engaging with life.
Yeah.
You're pushed out of your comfort zone. And you do get a sense of like, okay, I got a lot left in me to learn.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and I think it's good to be, like I'm 49, I'm going to be 50 in September, God willing. And the 40s have been hands down the best decade of my life.
Nice.
I've loved every single minute of them. And I'm going into the 50s kind of with like, I want to keep this momentum going.
Yeah.
That I hope like at the end of the 50s, I'll be saying the 50s were even better than the 40s.
I'm sure you will.
But a part of what made them so good, I think, was just that continuous, and the humility to sort of like be a beginner at something. You know? And you know, you get to a certain stage, whether it's like in your career or with whatever exercise or sport, you get a kind of proficient at it. You know, you can get comfortable.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy so much what I do, and I'm good at what I do. And it's good to be doing something that, you know, what you're really not that good at, that you're just learning. That's the real.
Yeah.
It sharpens.
Yeah.
Keeps you sharp. You
Yeah.
know.
That's a
That's
great
the
point.
jiu-jitsu. Just when you mention it, that's kind of what it's.
Yeah.
That's what it's
Yeah.
doing for me right now. It's keeping me like humble and sharp and in many
Hungry.
hungry in other ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up too, because the sense of humility in jitsu, for anybody who doesn't know, there's nothing more humbling than going in and thinking that you should be able to, you know, beat this person.
Yeah.
and then they kick your ass, especially when they're like a lot lighter than you. Like my first day, I got my ass whooped by 2 girls, and they were like 150 pounds.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks that they are going to be able to handle themselves in a situation if ever got hairy, let's say, and then in reality, you don't have any clue whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that humbling experience is very, honestly, like a very wise.
It's eye opening.
Yeah, very eye open.
Well, the
wise thing.
paradox is, it's a very kind environment.
Right?
Right.
Like it's a supportive, kind environment.
It's one of the
And-
nicer
yeah.
groups that you can get involved in, actually.
And it's like there's, you meet characters. Everyone there is a character in one way or another. But it's kind of like you get an instant bond. I think like my whole focus in my work is building up community.
Right.
Because I think that's what we need the most. We got to build up a sense of belonging.
I like that.
And my aim, certainly like with Barnabas, is that it's a place where people can come. Especially, it's a large immigrant community, and it has become a focus for the Irish and the Irish American community. Just that sense of belonging. It's a place you can go, especially when going gets tough, or there's some crisis in life. Bereavements, all that stuff, and you need the spiritual. You need a community. That I hope Barnabas will always be there for that. But we build it up in other ways. Like I need to belong as well. I need to
Have your own.
I need to have that sense. And I work out every day on my own in my garage. I got my garage set up, and I think part of my draw towards the jiu-jitsu was I needed to be in a kind of
group.
a group, little sense of an environment, and the kindness you get, a sense of belonging, encouragement, and it's a sport, and then what. The way the world is going, we never know when we might have to implement something too.
Yeah,
That's the
I
truth
agree.
as well.
It's well said.
And there's a good quote I came across, and I'm sure you guys have heard it because we probably follow the same Instagram pages and everything.
Probably.
Better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
That's kind of like for life in general. Just be prepared.
Yeah.
And
There's a guy who used to work with us. His name was Greg Gonzalez. Give him a shout out. He actually just had a baby recently.
Yeah. Congrats,
But
Greg.
he
Well
used
done.
to say that.
Congratulations.
He used to say that all the time. That exact quote.
be a warrior
All
in the
the
garden.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you might have to implement it. And if you do it, I think it helps contribute to a sense of peace as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And also, like, the truth is, every man and woman does have capacity for violence within them. And it's good to sort of have that harness,
Exercise.
because it's going to come out one way or other,
Yeah.
toward another person or toward yourself, if you're not in touch with it.
This is
You
like
know?
my main thing for jiu-jitsu is like I was saying to you, after I do like a heavy session, I'm a nicer person. Like I understand the moments where I was like, I needed to get out my physical aggression, and in jiu-jitsu I'm able to get it out without actually making it aggressive behavior. I can make it just hard work.
Yeah.
And I can be nice, but get hard, aggressive is the right word, but at the same time, in jiu-jitsu, it doesn't come out aggressive because they call it the gentle sport. I can just move a lot, and I feel like the person that I'm usually just matching the energy of the person that I'm training with, but afterwards, like, I feel like I'm nicer to my dog. I feel like I can speak to the guys I work with in a much more neutral tone. I feel like that it helps me be a more leveled person on the whole, because when I get it built up, I really enjoy the gym, and I hit the gym a lot, but I feel like the sense, you train on your own, but I'm sure you've went down to like Mount Vernon Barbell or here
Sure,
and
no,
there
absolutely.
just to go
and
and meet
I
a few
have
people.
a few buddies who'll join me from time to time. You
Yeah.
know? And that's I think it's a good way for men to connect anyway.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
There's not, especially when you get to a certain age, you're not, you know.
No friendship.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
need. And
it's
you
a lonely
gotta
world.
you got to be fostering that.
Yeah.
Like, so the gym and exercise, it does that. Like, I think it's necessary.
Yeah.
I really think it's necessary. And then there's like, there's a quote that from a Saint Irenaeus, and he was like way back, like early Christian times, and he was talking about how to give glory to God. And he said the glory of God is a human being fully alive, you know?
Yeah.
So whatever that passion is that makes you feel fully alive, whether it's lifting weights, doing jiu-jitsu, playing music, you know, whatever your
Any
passion is,
expression.
that you're putting yourself wholeheartedly in and feeling a sense of like just complete here, you know, I'm feeling
So giving
that's giving glory to God.
Given the life that you're gifted, your full attention in all aspects.
Can you imagine, like, if you made something, whatever it was, like, and it's never used, whatever. If you're a carpenter, you make something. Yeah, you make a nice chair, and it's never used. It's put in the corner. It's just decoration, and it's polished every now and then. But no one's enjoying it. It's not doing its thing. I think the same with us, with God. Like, He created us. He gave each one of us our own particular set of talents and potential. And I think even like with the body. So I've had, like, over the years, different parts of myself that got sore through exercise, and one was my QL, you know, here. And until it got sore, until it started giving me trouble, I didn't know it existed.
I actually never heard of QL either.
So it's right here. It's like, you know, between the end of your rib here and the top of your body, either side. That's
okay.
good. So I had to. I learned about it then, and it's so intriguing. Like, God created it, and it's to do with your whole stability and balance and all that kind of thing. You know, it's connected with your hip.
How'd you heard it?
Huh?
How'd you heard it?
Probably lifting weights. I think it might have actually been putting a dumbbell away.
Yeah.
Not even
something
more
silly, yeah.
Something
The big one on one side.
something like, which turns out to be one of the best exercises you can do for your QL.
Right.
Single arm carries, like suitcase carries.
Nice. Okay.
You know, so that was probably how I injured it. Not lifting it right and putting it away wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, just that injury and that learning what part was sore and then its role, I just opened me up to the wonder of my being, and like, God created this. Like, can you imagine that creative intelligence, like that, the intricacies of putting me together, each one of us.
Yeah.
And if I would have gone through my life without knowing that he had made that. And how many more little parts of me are inside that I've yet to find out?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like little muscles or sinews and stuff that my creator, you know, designed and put together. I find that fascinating. I find that is opening up a spiritual thing for me, you know? And me, by engaging with that, I think is giving praise to God. The best gratitude I can give God is living my life and using what He gave me.
Like that.
There's no, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be giving Him gratitude. I wouldn't be giving Him praise. He definitely wants us, like, you know, the role of church. I don't think we're meant to be in church all day. It's a place where we go to get refreshed and revived, and we show our reverence, keeping the one day holy and so on. But I think He wants us out there living this life, performing it.
Yeah.
You know?
I like that analogy that you use in regards to creating something and just throwing it to the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine if I was God and I created something with the intention of living a full life, and people just chose to sit on the couch all day and do nothing. It's like, you just complete waste.
And there's certain things that are alien to our life.
Like,
you know?
Hunting.
Honestly, I think being sedentary.
You don't think we're meant to be that?
We're not meant to be sedentary. Even if you look at like where we're sitting here, we should probably be sitting on the floor, you know?
Right.
I got rid of my bed about 4 or 5 years ago.
You got rid of it?
Yeah. So I was waking up in the morning with some pain. I know it just sounds a little out there, but I was waking up. I wasn't going to bed with pain. I was waking up achy. So I said, you know what, it must be the mattress. And then I was doing some research, and I said, I got to get a better mattress. And the prices were so expensive. Like, to get a really good one, it was, and there was still no guarantee it was going to work. You know what I'm saying? I said, that's an expensive experiment now, you know, to spend whatever thousands of dollars on a mattress. Right? So I did the opposite.
Yeah.
I
experiment with no money.
I got no money. Well, what I got was this Japanese mat made out of straw, natural rushes.
Nice.
And then this little tin cotton thing goes on top of it. It was very, very low cost option, like almost zero cost. A little adjustment, turned out to be fine. I feel my body got stronger, and it's gets you on your knees before you go to bed, and when you get up in the morning as well.
Yeah.
Naturally,
right.
You know, which is like a good way to begin your day.
Yeah.
On your knees, and a good way to end it. So that kind of worked for me.
We're definitely making our bodies softer.
Yeah.
right? Like we're definitely
Yeah.
we're all of the
Like if that's the way we're evolving, it's not good.
no.
And nothing does stay the same. Like we're constantly evolving, but we gotta make sure we're evolving. Like we want to be evolving better, stronger.
So I had a thought one time, and I think I said it to James. I might have said it to you too, Rob. But and it's kind of along the same narrative of what you're saying here. It's like, how many of us are actually just completely selfish? And I mean it in a nice way. Like I'm not pointing saying I'm not, but how many of us would give up our luxuries or our comforts if we knew it would actually benefit humanity, comparatively to how many people, like everybody says that they want the best for the rest of the world. And it's easy to say it. Like you go down, meet any person in Brooklyn right now, what do you want? They're like, I just want to be happy. Right, well, for one, I don't think you wanting to be happy is not selfish. Like if that's all you care about. Now, you got other people who are going to say, you know, we're here, we should be happy, and I understand that. But relatively compared to the rest of the world or the rest of history, historically, you want to be happy. Would you give up like your fake nails, your fake eyelashes, or if you're a dude, your, your hairline, if you want to go, would you give up any of this if it meant actually the bettering of humanity?
And is that making you happy? Like the things
Probably
we
not.
think are making us happy, like they're probably not.
No, absolutely not.
Like,
Like if we told everybody that they had to sleep on what you're sleeping on tomorrow, but everybody would benefit from the world. You mightn't necessarily in your life see benefit, but the world as a whole would see benefit.
Yeah.
Would everybody give up their bed?
And I don't see it like as penance.
Right.
It's like, I don't see it as penance. I think what would help everyone would be, you know how they like, there's a tree that's like you want to save and you got to like hack it clean, bring it back to its bare essentials and then hope it's going to like get stronger and sprout new shoots and so on.
Some Irish guy was out here on the weekend.
Yeah.
Right? And I wasn't going to let him into the Blind Pig just because we were full.
Yeah.
And he spoke to me and he was from Cork and I said, you know what? You'll probably never come up here before. Come on, man. I'll move some stuff to make it happen. And I got him in. And at the end of the night, someone sat in my flowers. And James knows, like, I care about the flowers, like, a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, it really bugs me if someone doesn't water the flower.
Yeah,
I'm looking after the flowers like they're my kid.
Yeah.
So I look at the video. James pulled it up for me because I was like, something happened to this flower. Look at this one compared to this one. This one's screwed up. So James pulls it up for me and he's like, there's some guy sitting in the flower pot on top of all the flowers. And I was like, I just had an inkling in me that it was the Irish guy. So, which it would be typical. That's the Irish guy, right?
Yeah.
Like we're menace.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm like, it's definitely the guy. So I asked Owen, who was like chatting to you. I say, Owen, do you remember what the Irish guy who you served was, what he was wearing? And Owen's like, he was wearing a white T-shirt. And I was like, did it say Tommy Hilfiger? I was like, I know it's the guy. I don't even need to. I know it's the guy. So Owen's like, actually, when I was leaving to get my cab at like 5 a.m, he was standing across the street. And me and James had seen him sitting in the pot at about 4:45. So we knew it was the same guy. But I came in the next day and I seen someone after sitting on me flower and my heart was broke. And then I had to cut all the little bits that were broke off to try get it, all the stem, everything that's broken that it's going to waste energy going to.
Yeah.
I need to clear off all the old ones and hope that the new ones will grow healthier.
Yeah.
But
it's a tough thing.
Yeah, it is. Because you don't want to rip them off.
And it takes a little hope.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's a good analogy for people with their lives.
Yeah.
The things that we think are going to make us happy, we're kind of clinging to. They're only half life. It's only like, and they're probably sapping a lot of our energy. And if you could just like, okay, instead of adding anything to my life right now, I'm going to cut some stuff out. You know, I'm not going to. Okay, I want to be happy. What do I need to add? No, before you start to adding anything, start cutting stuff out. Strip it clean a little. You know what I'm saying? And be surprised what happens then.
Yeah.
You know, because I truly do believe we've got an abundance of energy within us. That journey kind of into our own hearts and into our own being. That's where the happiness is. You know.
Just on that point that you bring up, there's a quote from one of the Stoics, and I'm going to misspeak on it a little bit, but it says, if you want to find tranquility in life, you should do fewer things better.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Not more things, just
Yeah.
fewer things better. Give them more focus, more attention.
Yeah.
You know, which is a nice.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Yeah. And there's a little meme that I saw, and I ended up, I was writing a card for a girl who's graduating recently, and I actually drew this meme for my card. It was this guy with a real sad face. There's this girl holding a heart in her hand that just says happiness, and she's smiling. And then there's a guy behind sad and going, "Where'd you find it? I've been looking everywhere for it." And the little girl goes, "Oh, I created it myself." You know?
Nice.
I think it's like there has to be that, like, going into ourselves. That's where we're going to find our answer to whatever we're looking for. And that's where we're going to find our spiritual connection. You know, like, I've traveled a lot around the world. I went to India for a while when I was younger. I had the opportunity to go work with Mother Teresa. Very spiritual place.
Nice.
It's like, yeah, it was really spiritual. And anytime I go to a country, I like to. There's a spiritual thing I'm kind of vibe that I'm kind of getting into, and seeing just how they are to create. They're connecting. But really, it's an inside thing that you kind of have to journey in.
You've journeyed to the Holy Land too.
But the whole thing, I'm going back again next month.
Nice one.
And looking forward to that.
How was that experience?
That was very moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like a meet for all the different religions kind of end up there.
They're
right?
all there.
Yeah.
They're all there. For instance, like the room that the Last Supper was in, it's like a Muslim part of the territory now,
Right.
or whoever runs it, you know. And the Orthodox, they run the area that the Church of the Resurrection is in, you know, where Jesus' tomb was, and so it's like it's kind of, you got a little melting pot going on.
Yeah. You got to be respectful to everybody.
You got
Just
respect with everyone, but I wasn't expecting to be as moved as I was really moved by it.
Right.
You know, I was moved by. There was two places that moved me most. One was we went to a place called Bethany, and that's where Jesus used to go to visit his friends, Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. They were his three friends, and when I guess when he needed rest or to get away from everything, I love the fact that Jesus needed a place to go to rest.
Right. Needed a reset.
You know, he needed a reset. He went to his friends in Bethany, Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. That's where he went. And so I ended up getting separated from the group in Bethany because I just sat down. There was like a little bench. I sat down. A little cat came over and started playing with me. And before you knew it, I was like, oh, where is everyone? They'd all gone back to the coach and everything. But I really feel, for me, that was like God just saying it's good to rest. You know what I'm saying? It's good just to take a little moment. And then the other part was in Bethlehem. We went to Bethlehem, and I got to say Mass in Bethlehem. And a lot of people will ask me why I'm a priest, why I'm a Catholic. And the reason I'm Catholic and the reason I'm a priest is because of the Eucharist. I can't explain it. It's the biggest mystery in the world. But I do believe that my Creator, my Redeemer, loves me enough to make this miracle happen, that he's going to make himself present in this little piece of bread. And he's creative enough and powerful enough to do it. I don't understand it, but I know that's what I've centered sort of my spirituality on and my faith. I truly believe that. And it's kind of a belief that's been strengthened during the most difficult times of my life. The times when I've like been so most disillusioned with the church, with the institution, where I've been like, I just want to get away from this. I want to wash my hands of all of this.
You've had that experience
it.
before?
I've had it a lot.
Yeah.
I've had it a lot. And I've really had to ask myself that question: why am I a priest? What's keeping me? And it's that, you know, that it's that song keeps coming on the radio. Lady Gaga, got a million reasons to leave. Give me one good reason to stay. Every time I hear that, I think about my relationship with the church, and there's a million reasons often I feel I could leave, but I've got that one good reason I can't leave. I do believe in the Eucharist, and when I was saying Mass, I got to say Mass in Bethlehem. It's down in a cave, you know, and I got totally overwhelmed. I started crying. I was like, I had to take a break in the middle. Like, I had to stop because I realized this little piece of bread I'm holding that's Jesus. The same way our Blessed Mother and Saint Joseph held him when he was born in that cave. like I'm doing the same thing, right? This is Jesus. This little piece of bread. I believe that. So if I was to say like why I'm a priest, that's it, and why I stay, that's it, and my love of the people, you know, it's I feel very blessed to be in the position I'm in, like with people's lives.
And see, just I'm so sorry. The quick question in regards to you, Chris. I'm sure Dan was probably thinking the same thing. The Catholic religion is the only religion that provides Eucharist.
So the
No.
Protestant churches as well,
Okay.
but what we believe is like that it truly is his body and blood, soul and divinity. So there's other religions that would feel this, and it's representative, it's symbolic, it's a reminder of his presence with us, or he's spiritually with us, but it's not really.
We believe it is.
You know, we believe it's really him, his
is.
body and blood, soul and divinity. And there has been, like, people talk about Eucharistic miracles, and for me, like I always say, like every Eucharist is a miracle. But there have been moments throughout history where
They've tested it.
they've tested, something has happened, like a little piece of bread. All of a sudden, people notice there's blood coming out of it, or there's a few places, like one of them is a place in Italy, Lanciano. You could Google it, the miracle of Lanciano. It's like hundreds of years ago. Apparently, the priest was having doubts when he was saying mass, like, is this really? And all of a sudden, it started to just come, the flesh, you know.
Start coming alive.
Yeah. So and they did all these like experiments and like scientific experiments. You could read that online.
They've had DNA come up from like the likes of Palestinian.
Yeah,
Like,
and it matches the DNA and the shroud.
yeah.
So like the shroud that
Yes,
wrapped Jesus,
I've read that.
it matched it up to that.
That research.
So that's definitely like why I do what I do. You know, that's why I'm a priest, and that's why. And there's times like where I don't have. And if funerals, for instance, like the tragedies and things, and just on a human level, there's nothing I can give. You know, there's nothing. I want it, but I can give I can be there, say mass, bring the sacraments. You know.
I have a question that I have to ask you, right?
Yeah.
So the Vatican, right? You see this like the snake picture. We've all seen it. I'm sure you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
The one that where you look at the stage and it looks like a snake.
I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen
No,
it?
no.
Have you seen it, Jimmy?
I've seen it, yeah.
Have you seen it, Rob?
I've absolutely seen it. I don't
So
have
there's
my
like
phone, I
a
was
stage picture. And
Yeah.
I have not been in the Vatican. Have you been in the
I've
Vatican?
been there, yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
you are the only person here who's been in the Vatican. But me, James, and Rob, we seen this picture. And in the picture, it's the center stage of the Vatican. And it has the resurrection of Christ coming up. And in the resurrection, it's the center stage. And if you zoom all the way back to the back of the auditorium, it looks like two fangs and a snake head right in the middle. You never seen it?
Never saw that.
You got it right
Yeah,
there?
you got it. I don't know what that is.
I also have
Yeah,
a question. Like, I grew up like Roman Catholic. A lot of the times, there's serpents on the feet of saints, and
Oh yeah, I see what
believe
you
that
mean.
there's
That's like,
serpents.
you know what? That's a new hall.
Yeah, it's a new
That's
hall.
like from. I just said it's a relatively new hall, but I can see like the windows look like eyes. Is that what I'm looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Strange, right?
that's strange. I'm not sure. I'm
then
not sure if that was deliberate.
In the
or
very
what.
center of that, if you zoom all the way in the center of that is the resurrection of Christ. But the resurrection, it looks creepy.
dark. It looks like
It
that.
doesn't look
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
But he's on the feet of his feet like are on top of serpents, right? And like he's like
that's the resurrection of Christ. And to me, that one was crazy.
yeah. It's hard to know what's going on around him.
Doesn't look like any Jesus I know.
No. He doesn't have that all. Like when I picture the resurrected Christ, you know, Jesus coming out of the tomb, I picture a lot of power.
Yeah.
I don't see the power. I don't
I've seen
that
it before.
kind of artistic depiction doesn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
Of someone who's just triumphed over evil, sin, death, all the things that I fear.
The guy who's like saving us all from sin.
Yeah,
Right. Like that's not a great
that's
representation.
not that doesn't do it for me.
Nah, me neither.
But I guess the truth is nothing will ever do it for us. You know, like there was Saint Faustina, Jesus appeared to her, and he's message was like that mercy was his greatest attribute. And the bigger the sinner is, the more right to have his mercy. And he'd like his rays flowing out of him, of his rays. And he told her, get someone to paint this what you see here, like me, in my splendor, imparting mercy. Have someone paint this, and then I want this hung in every church. So you'll see it in churches, the divine mercy.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But she was so dissatisfied with everyone that came, all the pictures she saw. No one could capture what she saw. Like, there was no human being, no matter how good they were, that could capture the magnificence of God. And
it would be hard. Right?
It'd be very hard. Like, it would be very hard to.
Right.
You know? Like, if you look at, sometimes it's maybe, that is abstract in a way that doesn't represent, for me, it doesn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
But I think that God's grandeur and power is kind of shown to us in an abstract way through something powerful in nature, like a thunderstorm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get a thunderstorm, it's a sense of God's like, that's his power. You know, look at the Irish poet, Joseph Mary Plunkett, you know, one of the 1916 revolutionaries. A rose, I see his blood upon the rose.
Right.
You know? So it could be something in nature that God has created himself that draws us into his magnificence.
Have you ever, like, throughout history, and I'm sure you have like a good grasp of history, because like I don't think anybody records history as well as religious, like whether it's like Muslim, Jewish, the Catholic, the Christians. I feel like they record history, and everyone knows like history can be written a little bit differently depending on who's writing it. But I feel like the religious institutes probably hold the longest running and the best recordings of history.
Yeah.
Throughout history, do you see like times where the mainstream church and what your beliefs are, being like a Catholic, do you see them ever diverging and coming back together based on who's in power?
So, like, that's a very interesting question. Very interesting. And I don't know who it was. It was like some English writer. I don't know which one it was. You know what? It might have been like an Irish writer, Oscar Wilde or someone. Like, they spoke about one of the worst things, I guess, that, I'm paraphrasing, that could happen to religion is that it becomes respectable. You know, like that. Like, I guess, like, maybe that's something that happened in Ireland. Like, everyone had to go to mass because that was a respectable thing to do. You know what I'm saying?
It was more in the,
It wasn't spiritual.
it was more in the cultural stigma. If you don't go.
Cultural respect. And I guess like a big turning point for the church was when Emperor Constantine became a Christian, because all of a sudden it's the established church, like the emperor is Christian, and then it becomes like that was not going to get more respectable in worldly terms than that,
Right.
And maybe something's lost in that process.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that. Maybe the best thing for a church is often when it's suffering, when it's persecuted.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I see growth happening. And if you look at, like, you know, even in our own, like, in our own Irish history, when the church was like persecuted during the penal times, that was our glory years.
Yeah.
You know, that was the glory. That was our people witnessing with their, really, like, what do you believe?
Yeah.
Like, what do you, because you're really being put to it. This is your life we're talking about.
When
Do you really believe this?
Yeah.
And I think they're the moments in history, I think, where like we've had men and women who really like this is the faith. That's what gives me, that's what I keep going back to. Like in Killarney, there's a hill called Martyr's Hill. Right. And every year we had benediction on Martyr's Hill at the end of Corpus Christi procession. I loved that. You know, like that this men and women like lay down their lives because of their belief in their faith.
Sometimes maybe when like politics and religion, or politics, regime and religion, when they get together, it's probably not like, how could they be all on the same page, right?
You know, the question I'd ask would be like, is the religion helping the politics to be better and purer, or is the politics corrupting the religion?
Yeah.
I think more often, I hate saying it, but more often than not, I think the politics can corrupt. You know,
Money, right?
money, power, like worldly type of power. You know what I'm saying?
There's a quote I
Worldly
read
power.
not that long ago, and it said, I forget the guy, some economist. He said that profits are just as important in the Vatican as they are in IBM.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so we're
Well,
people.
and
at
also,
the end of the
if you're playing the number game like that, we've got so many schools, we've got so many hospitals, but yeah, what's going on in them? I'd rather know what's going on in them than how many you've got.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
quality over quantity.
quality over quantity. Like wherever we are we bringing the mission? Are we bringing the message of Christ? You know, or are we just like trying to expand our worldly influence? And that's not good. That's not good.
I have a question on community for you, right? So, or Woodlawn or McLean Avenue. So, like your local community. And so it's back to where we were speaking about like martial arts or like training and exercise. So there's a huge bar culture, right? Like bar culture down in the neighborhood. And myself and James both lived there for a long time. If you're part of the community down there, you're probably part of a culture of where you go to bars and restaurants in the local vicinity. Do you, I feel like some of the biggest problems in Irish culture or in neighborhoods like this that are Irish is that the community is based solely on the bars a lot of the time, and people only know each other from bars.
Yeah.
And you see sometimes, like you were saying with the martial arts, like if all these guys who moved out here were getting into like a gym or a martial arts school, as opposed to becoming like a guy who plays on the darts team on Wednesdays, so they have to be drinking on Wednesday night, and now Thursday morning goes to shite at work. You do see kind of, and myself and James, like, you know, we've run bars, we're in hospitality, so we're all for, like, you know, that exact, you know, thing. But at the same time, it does kind of have, there is a balancing act there with the community where if it's over emphasized on like bar culture, that there's a lot of people who fall to the side and they don't necessarily have the safety net of a community that would be based around like martial arts or religion or a gym, where people are kind of more likely to look out for you outside of, you know, most people who are friends with people just from bars. If you're not drinking today, we're kind of not friends, right? Whereas like if you're friends with me from mass or from church or from martial arts school and I need some help today, the odds are that like now it's our chance to actually show each other that we're a strong community.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of souls that I've seen come through the neighborhood get way too caught up in, you know, the 20-something bars on that strip, and they miss to go to the gym, or they miss to get involved with a school, or they miss to get involved with the church. How do you see in that neighborhood?
Well, I guess first of all, I come from the bar business. My dad's got a bar, Fitzgerald's 25th and 3rd. So I'm definitely check it out, 25th Street, 3rd Avenue.
We'll head down there this week.
Definitely, like I see all the benefits of and the contribution the bars and restaurants make to our community. Like it's huge, and they sponsor so many of our like sporting events and so on. And I don't drink myself. I don't drink alcohol. That was like a decision I made a while ago.
How long you've been off the booze?
About going on 7 years now. I stopped.
I'm at the same.
Yeah, and happy I did.
Yeah,
I really am. And I feel like when I say about my 40's been so good, I know that's probably part of the reason, because like you were saying, it pushed me out into other areas as well, you know, to find community in other ways. Yeah. And I think that's the challenge for guys. And what I will notice is I'll meet someone in a bar and they'll open up, they'll have had a few drinks, but you really need to, you want to meet them then the next day or a few days later.
You gotta go back to the bar.
They won't. They need to have sometimes they need that in them before they start opening up. And that's a challenge.
Especially in the Irish guys.
Yeah.
We don't speak about much unless you have a few drinks.
And it's not always the best time to speak about it.
No, definitely not.
You know?
You know,
and
there's-
it does. It's such a. They don't leave whatever time they leave, whether it's 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock. With whatever's troubling them, they don't leave with it resolved.
No.
You know,
If anything, the next day is going to be worse.
going to be worse.
You know, there was an Irish movie came out recently enough. It's called The Young Offenders, and there's a scene in it that's very similar to this. So, have you seen this movie?
No.
So, real quick, it's about these two young fellas living in Cork, right? And then news comes up that there's a shipload of drugs coming into Cork, but the cop sees it. So before the ship comes in, they throw all the payload overboard, and everybody in the area is trying to go down to get their hands on bales of coke because it's worth so much money to get it and sell it, whatever. So these two young fellas, they make their way to the coast, and along the way they encounter all these things. But they run into a little bit of aggro with the cops, and this old Irish fella, you know, shelters them. He says he hides them in the back or something. The cops are like, "Where's these guys?" He's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." So they come inside anyway, and he says, "I make a cup of tea," and it goes from having a cup of tea to having a couple of drinks, and they're all laughing and joking, and then out of nowhere, the old fella says, "What are you laughing at?" And he says, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Don't be disrespecting me in my house." And he says, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "I paid for everything in this house." And the guy's like, "What the hell are you talking about? I've never met you before in my life." But that's a very comical representation of somebody that has all of these repressed decisions or regrets or whatever that they don't open up about until it comes to something like this, and it just unloads on somebody who, you know, doesn't even know what the hell's going on.
And then it can lead to violence too.
Yeah, I thought honestly
Yeah.
it was very, very sad because you can see that happening in Ireland all the time.
Yeah, it's there's Ireland's changing a lot though, in good ways too. Like a lot of people have been telling me about all the negative changes, but I did a lot of reflecting the last time I was back in Ireland. Part of me wanted it to be like the 80s when I was a little kid, and it's far from it, you know. But went to mass in the friary where I was a kid. There was a time where you wouldn't get a seat. They had to put like speakers outside the door when I was a kid because people were down the steps. It was so big, so busy. And that's not the case anymore. But one positive change I think in Ireland is I think they've got a little kinder, the younger generation. I don't see the same gossiping.
Yeah.
You know, like probably in your time, you're much younger than me, Dano. But,
Or the harshness.
But harshness, like critical. There was like, glad people were condemned. You know, you deviated from the norm a little, whatever it might be. You were condemned. You were judged.
It's still like that in Cavan anyway.
Is it still like that in Cavan?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Kerry, it seems like kinder.
Do you honestly think like that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think the kindness is a good thing.
Kindness is a
Like
good
to be less critical. You know, there was a lot of critical people make mistakes. Like one thing I love about America is I think you can make a mistake and get back on your feet.
Yeah.
Again, you know, it's possible to make a comeback, have a second chance, rebuild your life.
I agree.
And at least in Ireland, the Ireland I grew up in, that wasn't really the case.
No.
No, you were constantly
forever.
You'd be constantly reminded
Yeah.
of who you are. And the truth is, now one of us is the same person we were 10 years ago.
No.
And sometimes you meet people and they might be a little disappointed you're not the same person you are.
Yeah.
No apologies. We're hopefully all evolving for the better, but we are all changing.
Yeah.
You know.
I have actually a couple of points on where you're saying. So, I've in conversation said this to James a few times, where when I look at older Irish people, and say your grandparents, you remember your grandparents,
Yeah.
right? So, my grandparents they lived in Tipperary, right, in the middle of nowhere, and if the dog got sick, you took the dog up the field and you killed the dog.
Yeah.
Right? But if you did that now, you would be arrested.
Yeah.
And my grandfather was under the impression that if you did something bad, he hit you with a stick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was the nicest bloke to me, and I had a great time with him, but he was harsh, real harsh.
Yeah.
And when he got angry, it was way, way out there.
Yeah.
And so as I got older, I started to think like what it must have been like to be him as a child and how harsh his grandfather or his father would have been. And when you have a jump in just a couple of generations from the dog as a tool, and when the tool's not working anymore, you get rid of the tool and you get a new tool, to the dog is a friend and a part of the family, and if you do anything to this dog, you're going to be under penalty of law. They're huge jumps, and I feel like you kind of have to, in one sense, tip your hat to the people who came before you.
Yeah.
In that sense, and in the other sense, you've got to level with them and understand what they grew up with and how different the world was for them. And that may be the reason why when we say, oh, there's so much more harshness, and there is more harshness, but imagine the harshness that they put up with going to school.
Yeah. And not
As
just
you know,
that,
with the
but
church.
like you look at that generation, like our grandparents who would have been, my grandparents would have been relatively young adults during the Civil War.
Yeah.
Never spoke about it.
No.
Never spoke about it. And I think the reason they never spoke was because it was such a horrific experience.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that I wish they were still alive. I wish I could ask them, like, how it affected them that time.
Yeah.
You know? Like, think about it, a small little country in the middle of a civil war. Not like just big, a small country.
Yeah.
You know? And not once I never heard
It would
that
constantly
generation.
be
Never heard them
obvious.
talk about it. Never heard them talk about it. I think it was like
Yeah.
they just had to put it behind them, and not the way of putting it, but just never talk about it again.
And on that actually comes into my second topic of, so Ireland being a small country and being the nation that we know, it's very proud and for great reasons, best country in the world, bar America, right? But when you look at the people who led the 1916 Rising, or the men who fought for the freedom of Ireland,
Yeah.
and now you see Ireland and it's part of the EU,
Yeah.
right? Do you think them men would have laid down their lives knowing that we were going to give up our sovereignty
Yeah.
to the
No,
European Union?
no, they wouldn't.
Right?
I think, and I love the fact you just mentioned that word sovereignty, because that's, I think it's a word that I connected with a lot during the pandemic, and maybe that's what I connected a lot with my roots, even as an Irish man, and at that the whole struggle for independence and everything, like our sovereignty, it's vital, and this whole way the world is changing now, sovereignty has been.
Dismantled.
And for me, it's like my sovereignty, and maybe the people in Barnabas are tired of hearing me speak about this, but a lot of my homilies on Sundays are about who I am, my identity. I'm a citizen of God's kingdom. I'm a co-heir with Christ to the kingdom of God. I'm a sovereign man, and I want to walk through this world with that sovereignty. Like that has to be my attitude now towards a lot of rules and mandates and regulations that are going on. I'm a sovereign man.
Yeah.
And I think the pandemic really brought that out of me. You know, when you don't know what till you're actually put in a position, and when there was like so many regulations about everything that, you know,
You got to see what sits with you.
and I think in terms of Ireland, I think if they came back, they'd be saying, is this what we died for?
This is,
You know, to have someone in Brussels telling us to do, like, what's the difference someone in Brussels and opposed to someone in London
yeah, it's same
telling you
time.
what to do? It's just another bureaucrat telling you what to do with your country.
That was
Like, you see what they're doing with cows now?
Yeah,
Like the cows are bad.
Yeah,
Farming is bad.
Was it 60?
Yeah,
You know?
they're
day or
paying
something?
farmers not to farm.
Come on. And not only that, but they've demonized cows. The
Yeah.
most beautiful creatures there is.
They're
there
trying
is,
to make
you
out
know?
like they're the reason why we
That
have
the
global warming.
global warming. 'Cause
Yeah.
the cows. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
If
Like
they-
the cows are nourishing us.
The cows
and we
out-
treat them kind of like I love the farming in Ireland.
Yeah.
Animals were treated like with a lot of respect, but they were still like going to nourish you and feed
Yeah, of
you.
course, yeah.
You know, but they were treated with
They were
with
treated
respect.
like they're going to nourish it.
Yeah,
and
they
feed you.
were
Yeah.
treated well. Like I'm very proud of the Kerry cow.
Yeah.
You know, best milk in the world.
Yeah.
Best
They
butter
make
as
the
well.
best ice cream in the world.
Yeah,
you
best
know.
butter and everything.
I have
So-
a question for you, Father. There's the quote. I know you guys all heard it. Like the greatest scam the devil could ever pull is making everyone believe the devil doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe in this time right now, especially, a lot of people don't believe in religion. They're dismantling God. They don't want to believe in God. But the devil is in plain sight everywhere that you see.
Yeah.
Do you think we're at a day and age where we really need faith, or like, are we in a dark age right now?
So, for me, like the devil, his greatest tool is division. Division. He wants to divide, and creating all these kind of issues that are divisive. You know what I'm saying? Creating a new form of language that's divisive. You know, that's that's the devil's way. Just divide people, divide families,
races, divide
Divide
age
them all.
groups, divide genders,
Yeah.
divide everything.
like and make so many things just more like divide them more and more.
But that's
Yeah.
where the also
know?
the sense of community. I feel like the culture now, like they push away a sense of community. They all latch on to a purpose rather than family, rather than
So-
like a church or a religion.
I'll tell you a good quote. This is a quote that I latched onto during I really think one of the darkest periods we had was when churches were closed down.
Yeah,
During
That
COVID.
was like
they can't do that.
that just showed a crisis in leadership.
Yeah,
One thing that happened during the pandemic was every institution realized we've got bad leaders. We've got men in leadership positions who were probably like intelligent, smart, and licked up, whatever.
brave.
They got where they were, but they weren't leaders.
no,
We no leaders. So that's why our church was closed. But anyway, the Pope John Paul II, like he was Pope for all my life, really, till I was in my 30s. And a lot of talk like about peace and justice, and a lot of things been done in the name of peace and justice that have nothing to do with peace and justice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like just divisiveness and aggression and so on in a bad way. But Pope John Paul II used to say there's no peace without justice, but there's no justice without truth.
yeah,
When was the last time any of us heard anyone saying, I'm passionate about truth? Like everyone will say, I'm passionate about peace, I'm passionate about justice. But I've never heard people say, I'm passionate about truth.
most of the people who say they're passionate about truth get censored.
Yeah. And the worst thing I ever heard a bishop say, a cardinal say, was perception is more important than truth. I've had that said to me.
Wow.
So that's how bad it's gone. Perception has become more important than truth. That's the work of the devil.
Yeah,
Because
That's the devil's work,
Perception
perception.
would solidify division. Because if
Perceive.
you
Aye, that's
think
not-
this
that's
cup
not
is
my
white and I think the
perception.
cup is black,
You know?
well, then we're not going to agree.
Yeah. But I got to honor your perception. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the world being turned upside down.
The devil
So
in
the
disguise.
truth, we've lost our passion for truth. Like when you hear someone saying, I'm out for justice, I'm passionate about justice, ask them about truth.
yeah,
Because what's the justice they're looking for? It's probably something made up, that's
Yeah.
not based on truth. Jesus, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. That's what he said. I am the way, the truth, and the life. The truth.
yeah,
So, like when you speak about demonic stuff, I'd say division, and then the way like perception has started to become more important than truth. Perception more important than truth, and I think like on a personal level for me, I had to disregard perception because it's a prison. If we were to spend our lives like, how am I being perceived?
yeah,
What are people going to think about me? I'm going to be the devil's toy
yeah,
if I live like that. And you know what? If I disregard perception, I may end up losing my reputation. That's okay. Because when you lose your reputation, but you've got your integrity,
still truth.
you're in a good place.
Yeah.
Your integrity, your being aligned with the truth is the most important. Like who determines whether we're respectable or not? The world. I don't care for the world right now, a lot of it. Who are my reputation? My God. Like we look at the people's reputations the world likes. I don't want to be aligned with them. So I would say aligning myself with the truth, ourselves with the truth, being passionate about the truth, and really taking my integrity, like my sense that I can put my head down at night on the floor, sleep,
Yeah,
and I'm at peace. And it's I think if we push that with people if we challenge people to that, we're going to have a really beautiful world, much better world. Challenge people like be passionate about the truth, and be a man or woman of integrity. Don't worry about what people think about you. Your reputation, perception, that's all false. Like you were saying earlier about about the girls with the nails and so on. If we're going to lose them,
Yeah.
lose all that stuff.
right.
Strip ourselves of all that stuff.
I've often thought about that. I just couldn't see the mean people. Like I just couldn't see the majority of people giving up their just extras, even if it meant like I can see you buying an electric car for the good of the environment and driving your electric car. So I think you're a good guy because you're doing the best thing for the environment. But I can't see you giving up your convenience.
And it may not be the best thing for the environment.
No, definitely not.
All the poor little kids mining the cobalt. You know?
That's
Have you seen that?
So it's like
the cobalt
but
is crazy.
it's the like I guess it's that other new word. I learned a lot of new words these last few years, like virtue signaling.
Yeah.
You know, and that's part of the image.
Absolutely.
I'll do something because it's like I want to look. I want to look good. You know. Yeah.
It's funny that actually James said this one time to me. He said he actually rented a Tesla
At the
this
weekend.
week.
Oh, yeah.
He was trying to get somewhere. But he said to me, what do you do when you end up running out of energy on the side of the road with a Tesla? Do you go get a jerry can full of electricity?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or they think just switch it off. It's like I think it's interfering with our sovereignty again.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You
Absolutely.
know, like
yeah.
I
What's the hidden agenda behind it?
absolutely. You know, like my phone is I get a lot of use out of my phone. You know?
Yeah.
Like I don't watch TV. I don't even know how to turn it on right now. It's been a while since I did that. But I get a lot of use out of my phone, and it's part of my ministry, cause, you know,
It's helpful.
contact and everything. But I hate the fact that there's tracking on it. I hate the fact that it's
You know, I think
surveillance. You know?
I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
when it comes to the surveillance, I think it's something that's so subtle and affects us on a daily basis so little, like in our day to day, that it'll come to a point where they'll have so much control.
Yeah.
And then when push comes to shove, and let's say, for example, they want to silence you for something, you realize that they have years and years and years of information,
They've
documents,
a lot of data.
everything.
They have your
Lot
bank
of-
account.
Everything.
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 Just imagine the microchip, though. If you have a microchip in you, let's say 20 years from now, and they're like, oh, you're a problem for the government. There's an easy way for them to install a little thing of poison in that microchip and just like shut them down now.
Anything.
Well, I know in Brazil and in Canada, when people were protesting in Canada about the trucks, they shut down people who are protesting's bank accounts.
Yeah, and the
in
GoFundMe.
Brazil,
The GoFundMe.
The GoFundMe was
Yeah.
a
We
charity.
got
that
it. We got to
everybody's
get
doing.
another way of doing the GoFundMe.
yeah.
You know.
James actually set up a GoFundMe for a
Yeah.
gentleman around here one
Yeah,
time. He was a
Marine
veteran,
vet,
right?
Yeah,
He was a
or an
veteran.
army vet. Yeah,
He did well off
yeah.
it.
Yeah, he was just touched quickly. His name was Marlon. He's a real good guy. He actually was a licensed optician. He worked here on White Plains, and then he had a health scare. Ended up in hospital, and then he ended up back in hospital, and then ended up back in hospital, and then I think he was just for a long period of time he was just making ends meet. And then when he got hit in the hospital, he couldn't pay his bills, and then he lost his job, and he's homeless now at the moment.
Poor fella.
You know, yeah, that's it. But in regards to the truckers, like we were saying, people all over the world were supporting them through this GoFundMe. Like people anywhere
Yeah.
could give to GoFundMe and support, and then GoFundMe shut it off.
Yeah.
Just shut it off.
And
Shame
I
on
didn't even know
them.
where the money went.
in Brazil, when they were protesting about the new president, anybody who was at the protest, they just triangled on people's cell phones, and people who were there for a certain amount of time, they were shutting off their banks and just been like, okay, if you want to stay here protesting, your bank account's getting shut. It's way easier than actually physically removing somebody from it. Like if you were sitting at a protest, next thing you know, your phone, everything locks down, you're going to be like, okay, I need to use like all of my funds. If I want to get food later, if I want to get water, I need to pay my bill. Everything's gone or everything's stopped. Did you hear about this one with the dude who was like had Amazon in his house? He had Alexa in his house. He had his doorbell was an Amazon doorbell, which is like everything's voice
The
controlled.
ring.
da-da.
Yeah.
And he ended up saying some stupid stuff. No idea exactly what he said, but he said some stupid stuff. But in his own house, and Amazon shut everything down.
Wow.
Yeah, Amazon shut off his doorbell, shut off his Alexa, shut off his Amazon Prime. They shut everything down.
And we're paying to put it in.
That's what's crazy, right?
You know, that's the like really perverse part of it.
I often have a thought, and it's a strange one, but I'm like, at what point are we paying to get ourselves stuck in a prison cell?
Yeah.
Like, at what point are we turning our own homes into a prison cell?
Yeah.
And at what point are we paying a mortgage, paying tax, paying for everything in the house, paying for everything, and then at some point, if you got told, okay, now you can't leave, it would be like if you were trying to coerce something into a cage.
Yeah.
made the cage like their house.
We walked right in.
And eventually then you're stuck in the cage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at some point down the road, I see like not that happening, but it could happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Especially with those 15-minute cities that they're trying to
the
make.
Yeah, you
15-minute
see that?
cities. That's going to get rid. Do you know what's crazy is like, how are we so close to our neighbors, yet no one knows their neighbors?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the strangest things
I don't know my
about the
neighbors.
States.
It's back
So
about community.
there's somebody living like directly across the hall
Mm-hmm.
for me. Like my door's here, the hallway, the door's there.
Yeah.
No idea what their name is. Don't
You know
idea what their
what?
kids' names are. I don't know how many people's in the
In
house.
Ireland,
and that's only
you
one.
knew everyone.
Everyone. Everyone.
Like, I would often have random kids just run into my house.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, that's Paul from across the streets, younger.
Well,
son.
people grew up together.
Yeah.
Now, Mother Teresa, like, she spoke about the different types of poverty, and this is going back like to the 80s and 90s. She said the biggest poverty in the US was that social isolation.
Yeah.
But there's another quote from Mother Teresa: "Peace begins with a smile." Like, maybe that's where we got to step up a
Funny
little.
that you say that because, and I think I've said this to you as well at one point, Jimmy. My first few months in America, I would walk through. I was doing concrete, and I was walking through Manhattan, and I would try to like bridge the gap
Yeah,
with
yeah,
people
yeah.
by just smiling at them.
Yeah.
And I always got like someone either looking at me like I'm about to like rob them or ask them for money, or someone would just completely look away and avoid eye contact with me, and it made me feel lonelier than I've
Yeah.
ever felt in my life.
And I can see it like in a setting like that where it's more difficult. But let's say if you're living in a building or a neighborhood, like to be the person who does give the smile, who does say good afternoon, like to have that. I think that's a counter-revolution move.
Something so
You know.
small as just like saying hello
Something
is,
like that.
is rare.
Well, if you have a pet, that helps.
Yeah.
I've noticed that, like walking a dog, for some reason the dog will do it.
Grab smiles. You know?
Yeah,
Naturally
and
smile
people are
at the
who you can bridge the gap quicker with a dog. I think
Yeah.
they'll be more open to it. Maybe that's a role the dog's going to play in this. You know,
Actually down in the community that you're based in, I will say there is a greater sense of like friendship amongst just people. Like
it's incredible.
yeah, like when I walk down the street in
incredible.
Yonkers or Woodlawn specifically,
Yeah.
a lot of the time I do get chatting to random,
Yeah.
like just characters from the neighborhood.
Yeah,
Like
no, it's
you go into Dee's Deli, and you're guaranteed to have a conversation with somebody who's
Yeah.
just a character from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like there's
Yeah.
no way you're sitting there by yourself and
Yeah.
not getting the guy next to you.
it's going to
chatting.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is nice. That's
Yeah.
one thing that I do like about Woodlawn.
yeah. No, it's unique. You know,
Yeah.
it's a unique spot.
Joey Kremen will be coming in saying what's going on, how we're riding his bike.
Right.
Yeah, and then
100%.
Sasha and then
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
one more question on this topic. The priesthood and the movement towards Irish sovereignty during the Troubles.
Mm-hmm.
Any idea of where that came from? Like, how did that get intertwined where the priests were, they were at some point, like, I don't want to say leaders, but they were definitely providing services
Yeah.
towards the men trying to get the sovereignty of the country back.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like long history there, and I
Yeah.
don't know if anyone knows about it, but it's generally like a priest who would initiate people on the
Yeah.
subject of like republicanism in Ireland. And
Yeah. So I think like when I think about it, there's one comparison I make with how things changed, let's say, between the 1920s and the 1980s. So in the 1920s, there was one of the revolutionaries, Terence O'Neill. He was Lord Mayor of Cork, and then he was arrested and put in prison in England, and he went on hunger strike, and he ended up dying on hunger strike. Terence O'Neill, one of the great men. And while he was on hunger strike, the Pope at the time sent the papal nuncio, who was like his representative in England, to visit him in prison and give him a blessing, impart the Pope's blessing. Because he was recognized like this is something he's doing for God and country, for his faith as well. And then you fast forward like to 81, and the church didn't give the same thing to the hunger strikers.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of it didn't.
They were looked at more as like terrorists at that point.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that was, I feel very sad about that.
Yeah.
That's something that saddens me. And I don't want to get like overly political, but that does sadden me. That there was that sort of shift. You know.
There was definitely a point
And
where
I'm not sure what the
politics
motivation
came into
was.
it, right?
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but it's I wouldn't see it as being the proudest moment.
Yeah.
You know, like I wouldn't.
I think we're at a time right now where like politics have overpowered religion. Like, you know, growing up for me in school, there was always a prayer. There was always a sign of a religion in there. Today, you don't have any of that, you know, but you're liable to see a poster for a concert with the devil on it or something like that.
If the politics don't align, if the religion doesn't align with the politics now, they're gonna lose face. Like I feel like the religion never used to have to, maybe just not historically in what we read, but it didn't bend. You can say, well, like King Henry VIII had to change religion, right?
Yeah.
It didn't bend as much as opposed to it does now, where you've got like, this is now okay in our society, so now the church will say, okay, look, it has to be okay because society won't accept it.
I think it comes back to the same thing we spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
Perception. That misguided sense that perception is important.
Yeah.
More important than truth, which it never will be. Never.
Speaking on that point, Father, there was a question that Dano asked you before the podcast got started in the way that you view the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that there's been some accounts in the Old Testament that is regarded as historic fact. Like Dano's been getting into it lately, he tells me a lot. But there's people who are proven to be alive at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you view the Bible to be like a literary sense, or?
So I believe it's the word of God, and that it cuts more finely than a double-edged sword. You know, I can randomly open the Bible in prayer. So I say prayer to the Holy Spirit, what's going on in my life, just give me a little guidance here, and I'll randomly open it. And there's the words of life that are there, you know? And it's mystery, you know? I'm living here 2023, and this world is a mystery.
Mm.
I don't understand it fully, you know? And I have to say the same thing about when I go into the biblical times and so on. Mystery as well. But all I know is that it's where I get my direction and where I get my challenge and I get my words of life, you know? You know, even the whole creation of man, like God breathing, you know? Like I think that's my bread of life. The most basic thing we do is breathe. You know what I'm saying? And that God breathes into me. And do I really believe that God is as close to me as my breath? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I get out of that part. Because I do believe He did create me.
Mm.
And He breathed life into me. You know? And there's this part, I think it's from Ezekiel, where there's these bones that are like dead. And can these dry bones live? He breathes into them to get alive. You know, and I take that literal, in the sense that I gotta allow God to breathe life into me, you know. And times when I'm feeling lethargic or I'm getting hit by the woes of this world or something, and that's when I know I gotta get back to my breath here and let God breathe life into me, like get back to just that basic source of life, you know.
One of the like from just like doing Bible study, and not of any religion. Like I'll read like parts of the Quran. I'll read like, you know, some Judaism. Like I'll read some of the Old Testament of all the books just to kind of get like a grasp of where it is.
Yeah.
Something that I've noticed, and what James speaking on is like for example, you have King David, right? Like that's a factual guy, right? Like that's not a fable. You know, like this is a guy who we don't have like a piece of him to say this, but we do have him in multiple texts from multiple different religions, from different parts of the globe. And I think people don't actually know that a lot of the time that, you know, Solomon, David,
All of that is that's like
this is
that's
historic fact.
history.
And
That's history.
because it's in Bibles.
Yeah.
People sometimes think that that's just a story, right? Because you've got like the story of David and Goliath, and we won't go into David and Goliath because, you know, you could say whatever you want about it, but David was a man, and David was a king, and he had a bloodline, and his bloodline ran true down to Jesus.
Yeah.
So you have, same with the tribes of Israel and these different things. So I feel like people, once you go into religion, if you're not a religious person, which like most people aren't nowadays, right? Most people believe that they are God, that they create things around them, or one of these new age kind of beliefs, which, you know, do whatever you want. But when you go back to biblical texts, just because it's associated with a religion, they don't believe that this is actually in any way historic, when actually most of it, you can take out the parts that you want to take out and say these are religious parts, but most of them are documented, like history and historic fact, historic bloodlines, like you were saying about the temples in Israel. These temples, these are the temples which these men sat in, and they can give you the history of it.
That's why I think, once again, I'm coming back to truth. Ask someone, are you open to the truth?
And that's what I
You know
find.
what I'm saying? Like, are you open to the truth? And, you know, okay, then let's do a little discovery here.
Yeah.
You know,
It
if
takes
you're
reading,
open to
though.
the truth, you're going to be more inclined to journey in there.
Yeah. That's just something that I found very strange, especially over the past couple of years that I've been reading it, is when I unearthed something that maybe I wasn't aware of. And I went to all Christian boys, brotherhood schools growing up, like, you know, ran by monks and priests. And, you know, I'm like, okay. Every time I read something, I'm like, well, okay, I didn't realize that this was actually the historic fact of it. Then if you ever try to introduce someone to this idea, not based on a religious thing, just based on like, wait, did you know that this guy lived? They'll fight you with like, how do you know this? But if you turned around to them and took the religious aspect out of it, you know, and you read this from the History Channel, as opposed to nothing to do with religion, they would be more inclined to believe you.
I guess it's prejudice.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the
You
point.
know, like, put aside our prejudice.
Yeah.
And open to the truth.
Yeah.
See where it leads you.
Like you go to the Egypt, you can get, like Moses was in Egypt. So we have got texts that talk about as far back as Egypt and way further. But if no one was studying Egypt at all, and the only we hadn't found it, and the only thing that we had to say that Egypt was real was out of a Bible, and Moses traveling and being persecuted or whatever, people would be like, nah, Egypt's not real. Like, nah, that's just something. It's like the Tower of Babylon, like all these different times. It's like people that I don't actually think a lot of them even believe in some of these historic sites. Maybe if you brought them to it, they seen like the ruins or whatever, they'd be like, okay, but outside of it, once you associate something with religion now, whether it's Muslim, Judaism, Christianity, people generally kind of perceive it as woo-woo or voodoo. Or like, you know, this is like, you know, a fairy tale. And there's so much history in it. And the history is like some of the most vivid historical documentation that we have, especially if you get a few different texts. Like if you do get and correlate over like the Judaism, the Muslim, like you've got Jesus in all three of the texts. It's not like they don't all believe the same thing about the guy, but they all talk about the guy. And the fact that they're talking about this guy, I had someone the other day talk to me and be like, oh, well, Jesus wasn't real. And I'm like, right, whether you believe he was the son of God or not, he was definitely a guy, right? And they're like, well, how do you know? And I'm like, because there's like hundreds of thousands of like documents of people writing about him. You know, they weren't all writing about a guy that didn't exist all at once, all in different parts of the world and have different views on it, you know? So when you start getting into that and then you're really like, wow, people are so put off by religion that they're willing to actually disregard multiple different sightings or multiple different texts just because they don't want to even say, even if you're not trying to tell them that this guy is like the Son of God, right? Because everyone has their own beliefs. But even when you're just trying to say he existed.
And look at Mary and Joseph were on their way to register for the census.
Yeah.
You know, like that's where they were going
Yeah.
when he was born.
It's
And I have heard one story of a guy that converted after hearing the genealogy. So on Christmas Day, there's a few different masses with choice of readings. And one of the readings is what's called the genealogy. So-and-so, the son of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so, all the way down to Joseph.
Yeah.
You know, and Jesus. So this guy had like seen that bloodline,
Yeah.
you know. It was like that had been what had made him think, oh my gosh,
I think the
that's real.
bloodlines are very important, especially now when no one's having children anymore, or very few people.
Yeah.
And I feel like one of the things that you're doing, like what you said earlier about like you're giving God, or you're doing justice to God when
Just being alive.
Being alive. And keeping your bloodline alive, I think,
and
is doing
it's-
justice to God too.
And even that's a tribute to our bloodline as well. You know, sometimes we say like, you know, family tree, I want to heal my family tree.
Yeah.
Heal it by just being in this moment here.
Yeah.
We're not going to get back to the 1920s or the 1840s.
No.
Where like, you know, think of like the key moments where, let's say, our bloodline would have suffered so much during famine and persecution and stuff. But the greatest way we can heal is just by being in 2023 alive and well and happy and appreciative that we are, you know, and that they gave birth to whoever, you know, is part of our line.
I always think of, I'm always trying to make my mark on my bloodline and trying to be a person in my bloodline that people will look up to and be like, he tried really hard and he wanted. Like, I personally don't believe that my right to be happy trumps anything. And I know that people say stuff to me about this all the time. But I say, I don't believe I'm here to be happy.
We got a responsibility.
Yeah.
Deeper, bigger calling.
You'll find
you know
more
what?
fulfillment that way as well.
Absolutely. And if we think about other people's happiness above our own, we kind of do get happy.
Yeah.
You know, it does something.
Yeah, we have a guy working with us at the moment. His name is Julio. He's been with us since he was a barback, and he's become a bartender in the last couple of years. But he's this week, supposedly, he's signing off on a house. So that's something that really speaks to me personally. Like when he told me this, I felt like a deep sense of pride.
Yeah.
Because showing that we put effort into building a business that can employ somebody else, that can benefit them to the point of prospering.
Absolutely.
That was huge for me. That's more than any paycheck. You know.
So you know, it's you've probably heard that thing: the two people in life you need to make proud, 8-year-old you and 80-year-old you.
I
You
never
know.
heard that.
So, but I love it because
That's
it's like
nice.
that's why I got it. You know, but a couple of weeks ago I was helping a kid with something very simple. Teach him how to jump rope. You know, we did a little boxing class. And he's got into it. You can see the sense of accomplishment. And there was a part of me thinking, you know what? If he keeps this up, 50-year-old him is probably going to thank me. I might be dead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think that's what we got to aim for. Like that we're going to have an impact that after we're gone, there's going to be people saying, you know what?
That was good, dude.
Yeah, help me with such and such, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Like that. Those like little, and it's not always big things. Sometimes we think we got to have a big project. It's the little things, you know, the things that are overlooked a lot of the time. You know that's
Health.
Yeah,
The one thing that really drives home me is how focused you are around health, and how I think you're probably the first priest that I've met that's like, and my mother worked for the priests in Ireland, like, and you know, I did work for them when I was like off of school holidays and stuff, and like I had a good relationship with the Catholic Church, so I was around them a lot. But you're the first priest that I would say inspired me, just physically, when I see it, to be like, this dude sees that it's important. So it's like, you know, I feel like the push on health is definitely something that you can help so many people with, especially in the sense that you're speaking about, and being a priest, that you're going to be around these, you know, unactive people. Just a push into exercise and health can really change someone's
Because
spirituality.
I really believe it's connected.
Yes.
Like with the emotional, with the mental, with the spiritual, it's like that the physical is, it's like a pathway, it's a gateway almost into it.
You can't have a healthy mind without a healthy body.
And it's like
Without a healthy diet.
Yeah. Healthy mind, healthy body, healthy mind. You know, and I also like I truly do believe the spirituality. You know, like just the like just how we're made. You know, that it brings me back in touch with my Creator. You know, these little things that we're all keeping us together, hip flexors and all this stuff, didn't just happen. You know, like that. Something much bigger and smarter and more powerful than you or I.
Yeah.
Put all of this together.
So you know what, Father, as well. This is going to segue back into the start. At the start of the podcast, I was asking you something about the water.
Yeah.
And you said before we started that you installed a reverse osmosis filter.
Yes.
Like something as essential as water.
Yeah, and
has been contaminated.
Polluted.
Yeah.
Like, and not just like polluted by I don't think it's by accident all the time. Like a lot of added stuff going into it. You know, it definitely gets polluted, like with all the pharmaceuticals and stuff that get thrown in, and
hormones as well.
All the things that disrupt our own development. You know, the things that block our own healthy development. But the addition of stuff that's kind of not necessary. You know, so the fluoride was one big one. Like we've had
the fluoride is the best.
And you've cut that out for
fluoride.
10 years.
Cut that out. Started with the toothpaste and stuff, and it was like, you know, because there's enough in the water, and then it was like there's too much in the water, you know. It's like,
well, how come none of your teeth is gone?
Yeah, they're still strong. I floss every day. I keep them.
It's funny.
Keep them well.
Fluoride is
you know?
one of the things that I said this to James as well. My uncle a long time ago told me, he was like, nah, and this is in like maybe 2008 or something.
Yeah.
He was like, don't do this.
He had
Before I
enough
came
wisdom.
to Ireland, he was like to me, don't be drinking that, don't be this, don't be
Yeah.
that. Same with like, you know, the sucralose. Same with the any of the fake artificial sweeteners, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
None of that stuff. And the fluoride is a neurotoxin. And to me, I think it's hilarious. Like if you speak to someone, you can just like a Google search will tell you what fluoride is. But if you speak to someone about why it's in the water, right away they'll be like, it's for your teeth. Yeah. And I'm like, well, it spends like a second in your mouth and the rest of the time in your gut. And then it has to go through your kidneys and liver. Yeah. And I
introduced into your bloodstream.
Everything. And
your
I'm just
bloodstream and up to your brain.
It's funny the answer that you get from people when you mention it to them, how they think that you're probably being crazy. And then from me on the other side of it, when I look at them and I think, you're so crazy that you won't even take 5 minutes to just maybe see why I'm saying this.
And just be open to it.
Be open
to it.
And
you know?
what do I have to gain from it?
Yeah.
What am I gaining from you not drinking?
And you know what? We got to all take responsibility for our own health, our own wellness.
That's what it's all about.
And not think that, you know, the government's going to do it for us.
Yeah, no chance. No, absolutely.
You know, it's
they're barely keeping this wheel going.
Yeah, we got it. So little things like, definitely like in my kitchen that water filtration system. Do as much as I can do my own cooking. I like to know what I'm getting.
I feel like there's something spiritual in cooking your own meal.
It's a sign of love for yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
like
so let's say if you're
yourself
struggling with self-love, someone's struggling with self-love, learn how to cook.
Yeah.
And don't be cooking for someone else. Learn how to just cook for yourself. It's just you. Buy the good ingredients, cook the thing, you're important, you're worth it. And then even like to do certain things like the sprouting. Have you seen the sprouting?
No.
All you need is like a mason jar, 2 spoons of seeds, 5-day process. At the end of the 5 days, you've got a jar of healthy green micro sprouts.
Right.
You know,
so funny,
and it's so like you've got your own access. You don't need a garden. You just need like a cupboard for the first 4 days, and then you bring it out for the last day. You put a little water morning and night, empty it out. Yeah. And 5 days later, you got like the healthiest like green sprouts you could get.
And you've grown them yourself.
The bone broth, the
There's
same
a connection
thing.
into it.
It's bone broth as well.
Yeah.
It's a 24-hour process, and during that 24 hours, like let's say you feel like, oh, my house, it's just not a home yet. Got that in your oven for 24 hours. It's kind of turning your house into a home.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you're doing something.
It's almost like a ritual.
Yeah.
It's a process. It's a ritual. Like, I work late most of the time, right? And I said this to James like maybe 6 months ago. Like, even if I work till 4 a.m, when I come home, I cook for myself.
Yeah.
Right now, sometimes there's food cooked for me, which is great, right?
It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll always cook a steak. Always. Like, almost religiously. At least 4 or 5 times a week at night. I don't care if it's 2 a.m, 3 a.m. It's like, if I haven't got the time to put 10 minutes aside to just cook myself a meal at the end of the night. Some people don't like eating late at night, but, you know, everybody's different. For me, I'm like, if I don't have the time to cook myself one meal a day, then I'm not giving my body, and I look at my body as a pet. I look at my body as like how I look at my dog.
Yeah.
Where if I can't take time out of my day to walk my dog, if I can't take time out of day to exercise my body, to feed my body nourishment, like if I can't take time out of my day to do these things, then I'm not treating my pet the way I would like to treat it, and I'm not giving it the love that it needs to basically be what I want it to be in the world.
And you know what, gut health and mental health are connected.
Yeah.
There's a big connection between the two. You know, like mental health is a big issue, you know. And I think it's definitely when I was younger, there was a lot of stigma attached to even talking about mental health. Even like saying that I'm taking care of my mental health. Oh, because people think I'm crazy. They think I have to take care of my mental health because I must have mental issues. I think we've moved from that, thank God. I feel we've moved from it.
We definitely have.
You know, where it's like, no, if you got it, everyone has mental health. That's part of our makeup.
It's like your
We just got to make
well-being.
sure that we're taking care of it. And it's
You
in
can
good shape.
see where we've let, in the past generations, where we've let not speaking about it become a problem that's after materializing on our streets, where you've got like people who've been let down by the world that we're living in, where maybe they weren't able to take care of their mental health or they weren't taught enough about it, where it's actually broken. And there's not much you can do for these people anymore.
And you don't want to oversimplify it because it is very complicated.
Yeah.
People struggle in various different levels. But sometimes it is as simple as making a nice meal for yourself.
Yeah.
And it is as simple as like, you know, rest is something like we think a lot about, and rest isn't always sleep.
Yeah.
Rest is sometimes just something that I give my brain a little break.
Yeah.
You know, I had a lot of things going on yesterday, and then I had a little break, and the rest for me was I drove up Central Avenue, went to that smoothie place.
Nice.
Had a debate with someone on the way about how to pronounce Asia. I think I'm pronouncing it right, haven't I? Asia?
Acai.
Acai, okay, I'm wrong.
What I call it,
Aki.
Yeah,
Aki.
I call it Aki too. But I thought I was a good kind of Asia.
Yeah.
Got one of them, drank it on the way back, and then continued my day. And for me, that was my rest.
Aki's great.
That was my rest.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that, we need to like incorporate things like that into our day. Just
None of them are giant steps.
No.
But they're all nice baby steps towards a goal.
Yeah.
You know, like one meal, like cooking yourself one meal,
Yeah.
taking a little break. All these little steps eventually lead to like good mental health.
It's a little message, okay?
But you definitely
You're
need
giving yourself a message.
you definitely need the social structure. Like
Yeah.
I find that if I'm having a really hard time and I have nobody to say it to, that it definitely festers into a worse place now. And I'm not the type of person who I need to go and tell everybody everything.
Yeah.
But like if I'm having a really, really bad day and I sit down with Jimmy B and I'm like, look, this is pissing me off.
Yeah.
The next day definitely feels better. Whereas I can also understand if you don't or you haven't been able to get to a place where you can say something to somebody where you know you're not talking about it, now
Yeah.
you're not giving yourself the rest, maybe you're beating yourself up, you haven't cooked for yourself, all these, you're not exercising, all these things, slowly after a couple of months of that, you are going to have some problems.
You-
Like
You know,
outwardly.
it's like you don't want to keep secrets.
Yeah,
Like, so there's two secrets and privacy, two separate things.
yeah,
You want to keep your privacy. It's important because it's part of like respecting your dignity, you know?
yeah,
You don't want to be keeping secrets. Though.
yeah,
They say you're as sick as your secrets.
right.
So I think everyone needs like some some friend, someone where they can just, what's going on in your head?
Yeah.
You know, what is it that's running you around?
Yeah.
But always respect your privacy. That's part of like our dignity as human, as, you know, God's creatures. But no secrets.
Right.
I think that's a big part. For me, that's a big part of mental health as well.
I have a question for you. Right? What days are you doing your mass now?
So really every day.
Right.
So, but on Sundays, I'll always like do 2 masses.
Yeah.
When one of them will always be the 11:45.
Nice one.
I really love the 11:45 mass. It's usually pretty full, and then it'll be like either the 10:30 and 11:45 or 11:45 and 1.
Nice.
And then during the week, a lot of funerals in Barnabas.
Yeah.
A lot of funerals there.
It's an older neighborhood though, right? You got a lot of like.
Yeah, we do. We got to. You know what? Along with that, there were a lot of baptisms.
Yeah.
This
Nice.
past weekend, with 6 baptisms in the parish.
You
And,
must
and
be up your eyes.
that's most weekends. That's the way. A lot of baptisms.
Nice.
So it's kind of like the cycle of life, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Sunday 11:45 is definitely one of the highlights of my week. I love that mass.
Have to drop down.
Yeah.
I'm meaning to drop down. It was
Do.
funny. Me and James actually stopped into a Christian church. It wasn't a Catholic church, and we wanted to just see. You went as well, Rob, right?
I didn't go to a church mass. I went to a prayer group.
You went to the prayer group. So me and James went to, and honestly, I was about to go to the Mormon church in Scarsdale just to see.
Yeah.
Because it gave me such a different view on church. I went, it's in my Marneck somewhere. It was like, but they were all singing. And I was like, I kind of couldn't take it seriously, but I did respect it because I also, you know, I know that everybody's heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
And I did actually ask the pastor, I was like to him, so what's going on with the Eucharist in here? I'm like, you guys don't believe that it's what us in the Catholic end of things believe it is, right? You believe it's a representation. And he kind of didn't give me a straight answer about it. But it was funny because they had like a band with like 2 guitarists. There was a drum kit in like a plastic box. And
It's like a full-blown concert.
It was a full-blown concert.
really,
it was
really
honestly
gave it a
like
lot
I
of
went to
effort.
Boys Own concert.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was, in one sense, me was like, my grandmother had been doing this the whole time. She would have been a different lady, right? As opposed to like the sorrow in the church of just like old days Ireland. But at the same time, I was like, I'm not sure that this really represents what I feel I should feel when I go to church.
Yeah.
But the people were very nice. And
Sure.
it gave me a different view on like what it would be like growing. Like I just wanted to see, we have friends who go to church and we have guys who work with us who go to church and they're like very like, oh, hey, how are you doing? Very happy about church. And I'm like, in church where I go, it's quiet. You got to just be respectful.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're meant to basically like reset yourself and let go of any issues that you have and settle with God.
Something higher than you.
Yeah.
So that's what, like when I go into a church and I see the red light burning, I'm at home.
Right.
It doesn't matter where I am.
Right.
I see the little red lamp in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and that's all I need to look at. That for me, that brings me right where I'm meant to be.
There was no candles.
It centers me, you know,
Yeah.
just like the sanctuary lamp that you got, like that red glow. That's the Blessed Sacrament. That's the tabernacle.
Have you ever been to the Christian version?
I've been to one out in Brooklyn.
Were they singing?
It was a big singing thing,
Same
but
thing.
it was more like an auditorium.
Yeah.
And one of my friends, his girlfriend, that was her place.
Right.
So she asked me to go along. It was nice, you know.
It's a different perspective,
So
right?
you know what? It was praise and worship. That's how I did it. I joined in the hymns of praise and worship.
Yeah.
But as I said, that red lamp in front of the Blessed Sacrament, the Eucharist, is I know that's what I need.
I actually didn't take the Eucharist at the church for that reason. I was like, I'm not sure about this and what I'm partaking in
Yeah.
right now, and I'm not sure it aligns with my beliefs, so I'm just going to leave it for now because I don't want to take something that I'm not actually fully understanding what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
So I didn't, but I did sit for the Mass, and the only difference was I felt like it was a little bit more tailored towards like really young people in this era. where like the guy was up talking about Marvel comics and movies, and you know, he was more like kind of cracking jokes than anything. But I didn't honestly.
Did he mention Batman?
He did.
Yeah, because Batman is the one of those superheroes that aligns most with priesthood.
Why?
Apparently, there's one Marvel comic where he is a priest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I can see it.
Yeah, I don't know which one it is, but it's
That's interesting.
Funny, I've never seen you and Batman around at the same
Yeah,
time.
please keep that quiet. Can we cut that bit from the podcast?
That's interesting. I never knew that.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
All right, lads. So I feel like we got a lot out here in this conversation.
Yeah, this was
Father,
good.
It was great to have you.
Very interesting.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much for
Thank
coming
you.
up. It was an absolute
Thank you.
pleasure.
A lot of
Absolutely.
enlightenment.
My
Thoughts.
pleasure.
So if you're looking to come and check out Father Brendan's ceremonies or any of his masses, his favourite one to do is 11:45 on Sunday down at Barnabas Church down in Woodlawn area, McLean Avenue, Martha Avenue. And anything to add to it?
No, but everyone's welcome.
Everybody's
Yeah,
welcome.
yeah.
It's a beautiful church. I go there sometimes on my own, just to light a candle and say
It
some
is,
prayers.
and it is nice just even going in when it's empty.
Yeah, it's lovely.
There's something about it, you know.
It's very inviting.
Yeah, it's you know what it's like. It's a refuge as well. Even if like you're not going to mass much or whatever, but you need a break from this world. One of the images of the church is as a kind of like a first aid center in the middle of a battlefield.
Nice.
So anyone who feels they're in the middle of a battlefield, you know, come get that little first aid treatment, you know, Red Cross, whatever.
Absolutely. So lads, you heard it here first. Another episode of the Naked and Famous podcast wrapped up with me, Daniel Cahill,
Rob Vieira.
Jimmy B.
and our main guest today.
Father Brendan.
Here we go.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Cheers.
folks.
Thank you.